Some legends linger in whispers. Others scream through the roots of the land. In 1817, something awoke in Adams, Tennessee, in the quiet home of the Bell family. At first, they heard knocking. Then they heard a voice.
It began with a single knock. Then two, then three, always just after dusk. John Bell sat by the fireplace, a cup of tea in hand, when the knocks came again. This time they echoed from both the front and rear doors. He rose, lantern in hand, opened both. Nothing. His wife, Lucy, whispered, "It's the same again, like before." But John had never told her about before. The children stopped playing. The house grew still. Somewhere inside the walls, a light tap. Then silence.
3 nights later, the knocking stopped. But something else began. John Bell couldn't sleep. A strange pull led him to the back porch just before dawn. Fog hugged the cornfield like a blanket. All was silent until he heard it. A voice. Not loud, not clear. A woman's whisper threading through the field. He stepped off the porch, the wooden boards groaning underfoot. "Hey, who's there?" he asked. No answer, but the whisper came again. This time, it said his name. The next night, the voice came again. This time, everyone heard it. Lucy Bell collapsed in the hallway after hearing sobbing at her ear. No one saw who whispered to her. Oh no. The children began screaming during dinner, pointing at their empty chairs and crying, "Make her stop!" John grabbed his musket, the old kind that took too long to load. "Show yourself," he shouted into the shadows. A whisper came back. "Don't make me angry." No one spoke after that. Even the air held its breath. 2 nights passed in silence. The family believed, hoped, the spirit was gone. But silence is not peace. At dawn, one of John's sons, Drew, woke screaming. On the wall behind his bed, new scratches, fresh, deep, burned into the wood. "No animal did that," John whispered, touching one. The gashes were wide, like claw marks, but set far apart, like fingers. Oh no. Lissy took down the family Bible. It crumbled in her hands. The pages had been torn out from the inside. That night, the house didn't sleep. In the darkness, voices echoed through the rooms. Not one, but many. High-pitched, low, muttering, chanting. And then one voice, clear, female, calm, spoke from inside the children's bedroom. "I want him." Oh no. Lucy fainted on the stairs. The boys hid under the bed, hands over their ears. Only John stood still, musket shaking in his hand. But it was no longer loaded. 3 days passed. The voice returned each night, not to haunt, but to whisper, always to little Richard Bell. And Richard answered. He spoke to her when no one else was around. He laughed into the corners of the room. Sat at dinner with an empty chair. One evening, Lucy found him carving symbols into the bedroom floor, symbols she had never seen before. When John asked where he learned them, Richard said something he never forgot. "She teaches them to me. She lives in the walls." And from that night on, nothing about the boy felt familiar. Lucy Bell began to sleep during the day, afraid of what came at night. She said the voice wouldn't stop whispering to her, calling her by her maiden name, which no one in town even remembered. One morning she woke trembling, cold as the grave. Whoa. On her back were bruises, 4 long, symmetrical streaks like fingers pressing down. John lifted her nightgown and froze. The skin wasn't just bruised, it was shaped. Oh no. A perfect, full hand outline burned into her as if marked by something owning her. Dinner became unsafe. The house wouldn't stay quiet anymore. Plates shook, candles flickered, the fire hissed even when untouched. And then Richard stared at the empty seat across the table and smiled. He whispered something in a language none of them knew. A cold wind slipped through the cracks. The flame turned blue. Lucy stood frozen. John leaned forward. "Who are you speaking to, son?" he asked gently. Richard turned to him, slowly, eyes completely black. "She says you shouldn't have touched her grave." That night, Lucy couldn't sleep, not because of the noises, but because of what Richard told her. He'd come to her bedside silently and whispered, "She said you buried her wrong, that she's still cold." Lucy cried through the night, clutching her rosary, brushing away frost from her sheets by sunrise. But they never had any frost inside. That morning, John checked the rear field, the place where the Bell family once buried a miscarried daughter, in secret, with no priest, no prayers. The ground had been disturbed. Oh no, something had clawed out of it. Lucy had enough. She demanded the priest from 3 towns over, a man of God stronger than Father Jacobs, who had once fled their house weeping. The new priest came, entered the home with no fear, prayers on his tongue, scripture in hand. Within 7 minutes, the fire in the hearth went out. Then flames erupted from the Bible in his hands. It burned alive in his palms, pages whipping furiously, as if read by invisible eyes. He dropped it, screaming, "Oh, no. You don't cast me out," the voice said. "I cast you out." He fled and never spoke again.
Later that evening, Lucy heard water running from the upstairs washroom, but no one had gone in. She climbed the steps slowly, candle in hand. The floor creaked underfoot, resisting her weight like it feared where she was going. The door to the bathroom was slightly open. Steam curled out, thick and unnatural, like something trying to hide inside it. She pushed the door open and everything was quiet, except the mirror. At first, Lucy saw herself, tired eyes, pale skin. Then, in an instant, it blinked, but she hadn't. The reflection smiled and whispered from the glass, "You look like her."
That night, the house held its breath. No knocking, no whispers, just silence, like the calm before a scream. Richard woke first, eyes wide, already crying. He pointed at the fireplace, now cold and still. She wants someone. Hey! John grabbed him. Who does she want? No answer. But then the voice echoed through all the walls, louder than ever before. Whoa! The one who broke the ground? Oh no! Lucy collapsed to her knees. John's hands began trembling, not from fear, from guilt. The next evening, the walls began to breathe. Cracks opened where there were none. Wood split without warning. The house groaned like a wounded animal, alive and in pain. John ran to the attic, lantern shaking in his hand. He opened the door slowly, and then smoke poured out. But there was no fire. Oh no. Only blackened prints along the walls. Handprints. Dozens of them. Child-sized, adult-sized, gnarled and stretching upward. And then they moved.
The Bell family prepared to leave. Bags packed, horses saddled, sunrise hours away. But the house, it locked them in. Doors jammed, windows frozen shut. Even the keyholes smoked. John ran for the fireplace to break through the wall. But from the chimney came ash and hair. Whoa! Then began the sobbing. Not from Lucy, from the walls. Crying, gasps, then laughter. Then someone screamed, "It's in the mirror!" Oh no. But when they turned, there were mirrors everywhere. They tried to run. John carried Lucy in his arms as the storm screamed around them. Oh no. The doors collapsed inward. The roof shook. Richard stayed behind. He was smiling. "She chose me," he said, standing in front of the mirror. "You shouldn't have buried her cold." He touched the glass. It shimmered like water. The moment his hand pushed through, the mirror turned black, and every other mirror in the house shattered. When John and Lucy looked back, the house was silent again, empty, as if no one had ever lived there. The house burned the next winter. Locals said lightning struck it. But some say it lit itself, the way dry wood decides to burn.
to hide what it holds inside. No bodies were found, not even ashes. They buried a stone where the chimney once stood. Tonight, if you walk past the Bell family's land, you might hear a knock on glass. There are no windows, just mirrors.
If this story disturbed you, like the video, let the others know. And if you want to know what else they've hidden, subscribe now to Dark Facts and ring the bell before something else does.